Welcome to Owino Uhuru, the informal settlement in Mombasa that shocked the world 10 years ago.
The government has remained mum on the deaths and suffering of residents of Owino Uhuru slums due to lead poisoning.
Kenyans piled pressure on the government to take action on those behind the metal refinery company which exposed the residents to lead poisoning.
Wakati walikuja kuweka hii mashini hapa, wenyewe hata kuja kujulisha watu wa mtaa. Sisi tuligutuka tu mashini imewekwa na inamwaga sumu.
A vibrant community of over 3,000 people was ravaged after the fumes from a battery recycling plant opened in 2007, Metal Refineries EPZ, poisoned their land, water and air with lead, a toxic heavy metal extracted from used batteries. This revelation triggered a protracted, painful legal battle. But despite the plant's closure in 2014, Africa Uncensored has found that the deadly metal continues to terrorize the people of Owino Uhuru in 2025, 10 years after we first investigated this case. We return to the scene of one of Kenya's most shocking environmental crimes to find that not much has changed since this story came to light. For many, in fact, things have only gotten worse.
Mwaka 74 niliingia Owino Uhuru, ambapo nimekaa Owino Uhuru kutoka mwaka 74 mpaka sasa hivi. Sikuona matuku mabaya yote wakati ninaingia mpaka sasa hivi, lakini nilikuja baada 09 ndio nikakumbana na mambo ya moshi. Kaanza kufuatilia mambo ya moshi, iko namna gani, mbona watu wanaumia, watu wanakohoa, wengine wanaanza kulia magoti. Unasikia kina mama wasichana wanaanza kutoa mimba. Nini mbaya? Bidi tutafute watoto watatu, ambapo mtoto mmoja Catherine Nauma, Basil na Musa Odhiambo. Mr. Karanja na Madam Lisa Mondi wakapeleka watoto pale Nyali katika laboratory ya serikali. Kweli walipimwa wakapatikana nayo.
Kina mama wameathirika. Most of mamas hapa Mabati wakishika mimba zao zinatoka, ama wanaweza zaa watoto na watoto wanatoka wakiwa walemavu. Kuna wamama kadhaa wamezaa watoto wakiwa nyama ziko kando kando, mikono iko kando, miguu kando. Nikiwa mmoja wao, mimi pia nikiongelelea kuhusu mama, mimi pia nilizaa mtoto hapa Owino Uhuru Mabati, na mtoto alitoka nyama na nikazika. Niko mmoja wao ambaye nimezika mtoto.
When we first spoke to Scholastica Shikanga a decade ago, the fight for justice had already left her exhausted and defeated.
Hii kesi tumechukua saa hii karibu miaka 9 na tumepitia changamoto, mchanga, maji na watu kufa. Hatukuwa tunajua kuna sumu katika huu mtaa. Mtoto alianza kuwa mgonjwa, nikampeleka hospitali ya Coast General Hospital, wakamtibu, sikuona tofauti yoyote. Ilipofika mwaka 2010 nikachukua mtoto nikampeleka kwa hospitali ya missionary ya St. Patrick Bangladesh, ambaye nilikutana na daktari pale, nikamuelezea. Daktari akaniambia mtoto mpaka lazima umpeleke apimwe damu ndio tujue chenye kinaendelea kwa mtoto. Tarehe 8 mwezi wa 9 2010 mtoto alienda akachukuliwa damu. Kaniambia pati ya siku 7 nirudi kuchukua majibu. Nilipoenda kuchukua majibu, daktari aliniuliza unakaa karibu na kampuni ngapi kani? Kamwambia ninakaa karibu na kampuni 2, moja corrugated na nyingine Metal Refinery EPZ. Daktari akaniambia hiyo ya Metal Refinery EPZ ndio imethuru mtoto wako, ana vyuma risasi katika mwili wake. Na ilipatikana 26 UG. 2011 tena nikarekesha mtoto path care. Mtoto akachukuliwa damu. Nilipoenda kuchukua machipu, daktari kaniambia mtoto lead iko juu sana, ambayo sasa mtoto ako hatari. Daktari aliniandikia, nikaenda kwa specialist ya watoto Pande Hospital, wakanipatia dawa ya Ranfaron na Flornoram. nicha nipatie mtoto. Mtoto aliarisha vitu nyeusi kama ile mafuta yenye umepikia kwa karaya imepaki kama umepika mandazi. Mtoto akatulia na daktari akaniambia dawa ya lead poison iko South Africa, iko Kenya. Kwa hivyo first aid ya mtoto ni masiwa na fruits. Niliendelea kumpatia mtoto masiwa nikingojea kipimo kingine cha 3. Mwaka 2012 nikarudi tena birth care. Kwenda kupima mtoto tena akapatikana ana 32, ambaye sasa kiwango kikiwa kimepanda zaidi. Hapo ndio sasa tukaja kujua ya kwamba kampuni ya Metal Refinery Episode imemaliza watu. Ndio watu wakaja kujua kumbe watu wameathirika. Tukafanya maandamano, watu wakashikwa, wakawekwa ndani kwa ajili ya hiyo sumu. Tukifanya maandamano huku kampuni haifungwi. 2013 ndio kiwanda kiliweza kufungwa. Hiyo mwaka 2013. Na hapo kesi kaanza, ilienda kotini.
She recounts the many legal battles she and her neighbors have been through in the 10 years since we spoke.
Wakati ilikuja tukaenda kwa kotini, tukashinda, ikasemekana neema wameapili. Nikaona sasa hapa watoto wangu watakufa, wakati tukukaa hapa watakufa. Kwanza nimeshawasafirisha sasa, angalau hata wakae mbali kidogo nione hiyo maisha yao kama itaenda. Nimewasafirisha, kama ni Kevin ako Western, kama ni Helen ako Kambala anafanyia hapo grade 6, tena akamaliza na msafirisha.
While Kevin has moved out, another grandchild, Helen, still lives in Owino Uhuru. Shikanga fears not just for her, but for the other children of Owino Uhuru as well.
Wengi wamekufa. Wenye walikuwa na Kelvin kwa hii kupima nini, wakina Tauti Mahero, Cosma, hawa wakina Elizabeth Mairu wamekufa. Wenye wamebaki hapa hata wengine patu wanasiti kupepa wakipelekwa wamekufa.
According to the court, a continuous violation persisted for more than 7 years when Metal Refinery was operating and subsequently thereafter, further stating that a direct effect on humans and the environment was evidenced by medical reports. The court ruled that the duty to protect the environment is not the sole preserve of the state. If there is a failure on their part, individuals and other legal persons would share liability. In addition to 1.2 billion shillings in compensation to be paid by NEMA, Metal Refinery, the Ministry of Environment, the EPZ Authority and Penguin Paper, it upheld the allocation of 700 million for a remediation exercise. NEMA was in 2020 directed by the court to identify the extent of contamination and pollution caused by the operations of the Metal Refinery at the Owino Uhuru settlement, remove any contamination and pollution in the affected areas of Owino Uhuru settlement, and restore the environment of Owino Uhuru settlement and its ecosystem. This exercise is yet to take place. Toxic waste from the battery recycling plant seeped into the community's water sources and soil, and the residue from the toxic fumes remained on the roofs of their homes. As we found out in lab tests done by Lancet and SGS Labs, the lingering danger of lead poisoning identified as early as 2010 continues to torment the people of Owino Uhuru. The residents continue to carry this poison in their bodies, and it surrounds them where they live. These tests were done on soil and water samples taken from the houses and water sources in Owino Uhuru, as well as on 6 blood samples from residents of different ages. In residential areas, safe lead levels in soil are considered to be around 80 milligrams per kilogram. Shockingly, 10 years after the story first broke, one soil sample was found to have extremely high lead levels, 199 milligrams per kilogram in one home, known as Kwa David, far above the recognized limits for residential use. And although the levels have reduced since the plant's closure, all the blood samples we collected and tested showed varying levels of lead in their bodies. We tested 6 blood samples taken from the residents and found lead levels of between 1.04 and 1.8 micrograms per deciliter. The dangers of lead are real, with the greatest risk being impaired brain development in children. Once exposed, irreversible damage can occur. In its ruling, the Supreme Court cited 20 deaths linked to lead poisoning in Owino Uhuru. However, members of the community say the number is far higher.
Lead poisoning is actually dangerous, yeah? The problem being that lead tends to accumulate in the body. And perhaps even maybe to mention before you go even further, really there is no safe level. As much as they probably gave you those measurements, you can't really say there's any safe level because lead is not even supposed to be there in the first place. Lead does actually have quite a number of effects on the whole body. So for instance, in your blood, what we call the hematological system, lead accumulation can even lead to anemia, having like a low hemoglobin level. Lead will also affect like your nervous system, especially your central nervous system, such that you'll have like poor memory, poor concentration, and on severe cases, sometimes you can even go into coma. Then when it comes to your digestive system, lead can even give you like abdominal pain, sometimes constipation, nausea, vomiting. And even for your bones, you can actually even get bone pain. For your kidneys, it can give you even kidney damage when severe, and it can even give you other problems like high blood pressure, because of now the other indirect effects. Like for instance, if lead is actually giving you like kidney problems, your kidney actually does have a role to play in controlling your blood pressure. Then you also know like what are the long-term effects of high blood pressure. You end up having like heart failure, heart attacks, and so on.
Both of them had lead in their blood and both of them died. Both of them were living at the wall.
NEMA had appealed the initial ruling by the Environment and Lands Court, taking the case all the way to the Supreme Court, which decided in favor of the community last year. Despite this, the community continues to live in danger, both from the lead around them and from those seeking to pervert the course of justice.
Watoto wa huku wenye wanasaliwa, wenye patu wako huku, patu wako na shida. Sababu NEMA ichasafisha mtaa, na huu mtaa watoto walikuwa wanachezea hapo. Hizi nyumba zenye walikuwa wanaishi ni patu hizo. Mabati ni yale.
Mzee Ogola has been subjected to serious death threats, harassment, and repression. He also says there is a new effort to remove him from his role, linked to his central role in his community's vicious fight over the past decade.
Sasa hapo ndio vita ameanza kunipiga. Sasa hawa mara vijana, nimetumiwa vijana wanikate singo, mara tumwa vijana, na vijana wangu pia walichukulia kasema baba hawezi kuuawa bila sababu. Hao vijana wakapia wakarelax. Kitu kingine wakatuma paka vijana wafanye maandamano. Mzee atolewe kwa kumsamta. OCS Changamwe wakasema mzee hana makosa, lakini kitu imeleta shida, akapatikana hii kesi, watu watafanywa nini? Watafanywa compensation. Mimi kama alikuwa msamtaa, nilisimama neutral, niendelee na kazi bila naendelea. Sasa mwezi jana ambao chief ameunda group hapa ndani, wanatumia na masimu. Sasa ndiyo hiyo, mara sijui wanataka watu wa NEMA wasitoe pesa.
For 10 years, this community has been hopeful that the courts would rule in their favor.
Sai ninajua ya kwamba maskini wa Owino Uhuru tutapata haki yetu kulingana na kesi yetu iko kotini, na tunajua ya kwamba tutashinda hii kesi kwa imani ya Mungu.
Justice has finally been served. An environmental court sitting here in Nairobi has awarded 1.3 billion shillings to residents of Owino Uhuru slum in Mombasa.
The landmark Supreme Court ruling in December 2024 was a major moment of victory for the people of Owino Uhuru after a long decade. Finally, things were about to turn around, or so they thought.
Sisi ambao hatukusoma, sisi wanyonge, tumevamiwa.
Mzee Ogola, Scholastica, and the people of Owino Uhuru have only experienced more difficulties despite this positive turn.
Asa, hapa tunazungumzia mambo na NEMA.
The multi-billion compensation and remediation has sparked new threats against Mzee Ogola's life and fueled new divisions within the community. In April this year, Mzee Ogola received a letter from the Mombasa Deputy County Commissioner's office, informing him that he would no longer serve as the village elder, although residents continue to rely on him to settle local disputes. He believes the billions of shillings in compensation and remediation awarded in the case is the cause of all his woes.
Nafikiri chief aliposikia tumeunda komiti ya mambo upande ya pesa ya moshi, ndio akaanza kunipiga vita. Anamwambia watu, huyo sio mzee na sio mzee yangu na simtaki. nimefanya kazi na chief watatu na sikugombana nao. Sasa chief anataka kae ndani ya hiyo komiti. Baadhi ya kijana hapa ndani naitwa Ukuyu anataka kae ndani ya hiyo komiti. Yuko kijana yetu tulichagua kama land anataka kae ndani ya hiyo komiti. Yule chief kama mtoto wangu. Na shida ni chief anataka hii pesa. Maana yake mwanzo aliniambia, Msogola, kwa nini nyinyi unaunda komiti nyinyi huwezi kuniweka ndani? Kwani mimi sina mdomo ya kula pesa?
Like Mzee Ogola, Winfred Kamenchu lives in fear. When Africa Uncensored first spoke to him 10 years ago, he and others had participated in some of the earliest protests in Owino Uhuru in 2010 over lead poisoning from the metal. His son, Jacob, was among those who fell ill. Since then, his wife moved out of his home in Owino Uhuru in fear of her life. Jacob is in school far away from Owino Uhuru. And at one point during the legal battle, Kamenchu was relocated by the Kenya Witness Protection Agency after receiving threats. He lost his job at a local cement plant as a result of his participation in the protests and has been unable to find a new job, perhaps because potential employers may be concerned about his activism.
Kutafuta kazi, wanakuitisha barua ya kule ulikuwa unafanya kazi. Na wale nilijaribu, nikienda pale hawanipi barua. Hawanipi barua. Kuna mahali nilienda kwa kampuni fulani, wakaniambia wewe ni ule mtu wa maandamano bwana, hatuwezi kupatia kazi. Sasa huwa nimejaribu kampuni karibu 3-4 mpaka nikalose hope.
He continues to organize within the community to demand justice. But what concerns Winfred the most is the false claims that money has been shared out among key organizers including himself, and the animosity resulting from claims that they are seeking to sell out the neighborhood. He fears that the court ruling awarding them 1.3 billion shillings in compensation could lead to further backlash against him.
Vitisho vilikuwa vingi na watu wanasema mnatumika vibaya, mnataka kutumika na Center for Justice, mshirikiane na watu wengine muuze mtaa. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa, na unajua hiyo ni mbaya sana. Because sasa kueleza watu wewe upiganie land, unapigania mazingira, ilikuwa ni kazi ngumu. Kuna watu wamepewa pesa. Ofisi ya polisi imepatia watu pesa, vile Mzee Hosea yule alienda nyumbani na mama mgonjwa na mtu mwingine akasema hao washapewa pesa kwa sababu ndio mtai uso wao waondoke. Kwa hivyo hizo propaganda siko na ni hatari sana, unajua inaweza uso kwa wanakijiji wakaona wewe kama umekulia hapo, sasa ikawaleta shida. Ambayo hiyo ni hatari sana because hawa ndio wanakaa na wewe, wanajua unakaa wapi na wanalala wapi.
Phyllis Omido has spearheaded the legal battle to get justice for the people of Owino Uhuru.
We are going to fight against any form of impunity that denies communities justice when they have been wronged.
After blowing the whistle on Kenya Metal Refinery, she founded the Center for Justice, Governance and Environmental Action, a non-profit that was key in organizing the community and leading the case that led to the Supreme Court ruling.
We are going to ensure that Center for Justice and other CSOs come together.
She has faced serious threats, harassment and intimidation.
I was supposed, first of all, to carry out an environmental impact assessment. They were paying me very well. They were paying me very well, according to the Kenyan standards.
When we sought her out 3 months ago, she had gone into hiding, fearing arrest for her work in Owino Uhuru. Months later, we caught up with her for a sit-down.
Our environmental space, people assume that it's a safe space. Because when you talk about environmental activism, people think about tree planting and things like that. But the actual fact is that environmental activism comes with a lot of risk. We face threats on a day-to-day basis. The first time I realized how bad it was is when I was attacked at my home very early on in my activism by gunmen. I had to flee and then shortly after that I was arrested and arraigned in court for this Owino Uhuru case, charged with inciting violence and illegal gathering. I think I learned, that was in 2012, I think I learned then that this work is not rosy. That time when you reached out to me, it was a similar issue. The National Environmental Management Authority had gone to Central Police Station and lodged a complaint against me. for the work that I've done in Owino Uhuru. They claimed that I'm preventing them from proceeding with their work that they were given by court. The fact is that they were trying to contravene the orders of the court, and I stopped them. And they became very bitter, so they tried to weaponize the police against me. So that time I had to go underground and process anticipatory bail, which I served NEMA and the other police at Central Police Station in Mombasa, just to avoid being arrested, because at my age also, I don't have the same strength I had when I was very young.
Nataka huyo mtu ambaye anasema anachochea community asimame aseme. Kwa sababu court iliwapea 3 months to file. After 6th of March, your time ended as NEMA. I want you to show me where I've been sent. And I want you to show me under what clause of the Supreme Court are you seated here today. Nataka mniambie. You are weaponizing police against me. You are weaponizing Madam SCC against me, Assistant Commissioner against me. Mnasema nimechochea community. How?
Frustrated by the inaction on NEMA's part and non-compliance with court orders, she has found herself on a collision path with the environmental agency.
Mnafikiria mtajificha chini ya mikono ya polisi? Mnakuja weaponize county against us. Shame on you, NEMA. Shame on you, criminals.
Kenyans need to understand that all state agencies refuse to close down metro refineries, despite the fact that we gave them irrefutable proof that it was killing children. We went to Senate. Senate refused to take action. They told us to go to court. Parliament refused to take action. They told us to go to court. NEMA failed to take action.
The 700 million shilling remediation exercise first ordered in 2020 has become the new battleground. After appealing the initial ruling, the agency's arrival in Mombasa in April 2025 was met with hostility from the community. And according to Phyllis, NEMA is at the center of a cover-up that has shielded metal refineries owners as well as Hezron Awiti's Penguin Paper Company from accountability.
Surely, can you know the person rent your house to know what he's doing inside there? Can you know?
2 Indian nationals are listed as shareholders and directors of metal refineries. Gautam Gulshan Kumar Gambhir and Sania Gulshan Kumar Gambhir. They are believed to be out of the country. And at the height of the battle, Awiti had launched a bid for governor of Mombasa in 2017.
Harbour agencies or Penguin Paper and Book Company, they belong to one person. They metamorphosed during this whole process. But they are the company that housed metal refinery. So within the EPZ, there is the operators and the developers. So the developers are always Kenyans who own land and they build go-downs. And then they let them out to foreigners who come with the technology and skill and put up the outfits for export, yeah? The local company was actually owned by Hezron Awiti. Hezron has given us hell over the years. This idea of us being followed with gunmen, the threats we've been receiving. We went to Senate. After that, Senate said they were going to call him. Later, Senate wrote to us and told us they have done their own search. You know, in the Senate report, if you read, they said they did not find any link between harbour agencies and Metro Refinery. And then they attached a registrar of search of Kenya Metro Refinery, a different company. And they let Awiti go free. We did not sue NEMA to remediate harbour agencies. NEMA should arrest those people. Unless NEMA proves to me that they were never bribed, nothing makes sense about how they've implemented the Owino Uhuru case. We've given them everything. Their work is to enforce. They should have enforced. They've done nothing.
Efforts by Phyllis to ensure the 1.3 billion compensation is paid out have been unsuccessful, despite her countless visits and letters to different government agencies and officers including the Solicitor General. As all this plays out, the lead that has poisoned the land and water remains a threat to the community in Owino Uhuru. Many residents live with various ailments and require medication, but they are stuck, are afraid of the lingering lead residue all around them, unable to move elsewhere, and their health remains at risk.
Sasa naona mambo yanaenda yanabadilika yanakuwa magumu. Mara kwanza venye nilisikia kesi imeisha, nilijua kuwa Mungu ametukumbuka watu kama sisi. Tunaenda kupata njia kupata matibabu. Sababu matibabu yangu ni pesa nyingi sana. Nilipoenda Aga Khan kulipa hiyo mambo ya kufanya operation peke yake waliniambia 350,000. Kwa mbaya haiko rahisi. Nilipoenda hospitalini waliponienda kuna daktari nilipata wanaita daktari Oganga akaniambia siwezi toa hii nini niko kwa shingo mpaka level yangu irudi chini. Na level yangu kurudi chini mpaka nitumie maziwa kila siku, maybe ndizi. Na kwa sina kazi yenye nafanya. Mimi nimeolewa. Na mwenye naishi naye anafanya tu kibarua.
Huyu ni mtoto wa sistangu. Unapata kama akienda hivi haja ndogo, sometimes badala ya mkojo inatoka damu. Alafu pia naye wakati akienda hii haja kubwa pia huwa anasikia kujikuna.
The biggest challenge actually even comes to the child. Remember, this child is still developing. So lead exposure on a child, again, remembering that there are really no safe levels even for children. So a child who's developing, this lead accumulation is actually going to affect how this child develops mentally. So they end up having like low IQ, okay? These are children who will be irritable, poor concentration, developmental delays. So they really have a problem, like they don't really get to achieve their milestones as required. Yeah, so the whole overall developmental delay in the children, that is actually the biggest problem for these children.
Jacob anaathirika kwa sababu maisha yake yako hatarini. Huo mwili wake anawashwa, anajikuna.
They hope the compensation would make their lives a little bit easier with access to drugs and healthcare. Some residents are concerned about their children's education. Others are desperate to move out, following in the footsteps of many who have done so in the last decade, in fear of the lingering danger to them and their loved ones. But so far, no one seems ready to foot the bill. The National Environmental Management Authority was ordered to pay 40% of the 1.3 billion compensation. Metal Refineries EPZ, the company responsible, was ordered to pay 25%. The Ministries of Environment and Health are to pay 10% each. Penguin Paper, a company associated with former Nyali MP Hezron Awiti, is supposed to pay 5% of the bill.
And it's not a treatment that you're just going to get anywhere. Some of these treatments, you really have like maybe to, you have to have these treatments like in well-established hospital facilities, okay? Yeah, so again, that's also a problem for a patient, moving them from where they are, going to this facility where they'll have to be admitted, because again, you have to monitor the side effects, okay? Even if I'm giving this, because many times you probably need like what we call an intravenous, we're removing these treatments from the blood. So you have like maybe to admit this patient and as in follow them up. So that becomes an expense too.
Mimi sina imani na neema. Sina imani na neema kabisa, sababu hata nikiwaona still inatetemeka wamekuja tena kutuua. Mwezi wa pili 2012 nilienda mpaka kwa Neema mimi mwenyewe. Nikipeleka hii malalamishi kwa ofisi ya Neema mimi mwenyewe. Nikamwelezea watu Owino Uhuru tumepatikana tuna lead poison na inakuwa nyinyi ndio mlisababisha mlipeana kibali kwa hiyo kampuni. Mkubwa Neema alinichipa akaniambia nenda nitakuja. Mpaka na saa hii mimi sijawahi kuona huyo mkubwa Neema akicha hapa mtaani. Tumeng'ang'ana, tumeenda kotini, Neema wale ndio wanasiti kuapili. Leo hii Neema wale wenye walisababisha hii moshi kutuumiza, kutuua, ndio wanakuja wanataka kufanya remediation, na wakati yenye tulikuwa tunaenda kuwaambia moshi inatuumiza, mmetuletea madhara, hawakuwa wanaona maanani. Walikuwa wanaona kampuni ni muhimu, wanadamu si wa muhimu. Ni miaka ngapi kuanzia 2012 mpaka saa hii 2025 ndio wanakuja. Hapo wameshatumaliza, watu wengi wamekufa kwa ajili ya Neema.
NEMA had defended itself by arguing that in 2007, lead smelting was a new industry in Kenya and a trial run of metal refineries operations was important. The now closed metal processing plant's chimneys may be silent and life still goes on, but a metaphorical cloud now hangs over Owino Uhuru. It is no longer as vibrant as it once was. Businesses have taken a hit. Developers are also cautious, with concerns that the lead poisoning could impact land planning and regulations in the area. What keeps the people of Owino Uhuru going is the hope that things may yet get better. For Phyllis Omido and the people of Owino Uhuru, this fight is far from over. What happens when justice is delayed, even when the courts have done their part? What can be done when state officers, deliberately or otherwise, sleep on their jobs? In Owino Uhuru, the answer to this question is a seemingly futile search for justice, with the weight of this heavy metal poisoning proving to be too much to bear. Many have paid and continue to pay the ultimate price for it as a result. We reached out to NEMA for their response,